You call a company to fix a mistake you didn't even make. They transfer you, then they transfer you again. Nobody can help, forms lead to more forms, and somehow you're the one in trouble. There is a specific word we use to describe this exact brand of helpless frustration: Kafkaesque. Today we reach for it constantly. We use it to describe fighting a hospital billing error that defies all logic, or applying for a permit only to get bounced between 5 government departments that each blame the other. How did a relatively obscure man from the early 1900s, long before the internet or modern corporate structures, manage to perfectly diagnose the defining anxiety of our era? Unpacking the true meaning of his name provides a vital tool for comprehending the invisible, uncaring systems that govern our daily lives. In 1883 Prague, Franz Kafka was born into a merchant family. He was a small, nervous, and sensitive boy who preferred sitting quietly with a book. His father, Hermann, was the exact opposite. He was a loud, tough, aggressive man who built himself up from the working class and demanded a bold, idealized son. Franz was a constant disappointment to him. Growing up under Hermann's shadow, Kafka absorbed a deep, lingering anxiety. He learned what it felt like to be constantly blamed, judged by rules he was never shown, and punished even when he couldn't explain why. This deeply personal dynamic with an unpleasable authority figure planted a seed in his mind. It became the lens through which he viewed the universe. Kafka rarely published his writing while he was alive. Yielding to his father's demands for a respectable career, he got a law degree instead. He took a job at an insurance company handling workplace accident claims. His days were consumed by long hours, unpaid overtime, and strict protocols. Most people would find the work mind-numbing. Kafka treated it as active research. He spent years observing how massive administrative bureaucracies generate mountains of paperwork, operating under complex rules that seem to exist only to justify their own existence. He lived inside these oppressive machines every single day. Going home to write late at night, his stories carried the terrifying authenticity of someone who knew exactly how it felt to be trapped. Writing became his only psychological escape. In those quiet hours, he drafted the 3 defining stories that would eventually build the word we use today. In the Metamorphosis, a traveling salesman wakes up one morning to discover he has turned into a giant insect. There is no warning and zero explanation for why this happened. Then you add indifferent systems. In The Trial and The Castle, protagonists face courts and governing bodies that refuse to name the charges against them or explain their own rules. The characters are completely shut out from the truth. The true horror comes from the final ingredient. The protagonist keeps trying to defend themselves anyway. They attempt to use logic and reason against a universe that is actively illogical. That is the formula. It describes the specific, exhausting nightmare of trying to reason your way out of a system that refuses to see you as a human being. Kafka's life was cut short by tuberculosis. He died at age 41, thoroughly convinced that everything he had written in his spare time was worthless. From his deathbed, he made a desperate attempt to exert one last piece of control over his life. He explicitly instructed his closest friend, a writer named Max Brod, to burn all of his unpublished manuscripts unread. Brod refused. He ignored the dying wish and spent the following years organizing and publishing those notebooks, including The Trial and The Castle, eventually catapulting Kafka to global fame. The man who spent his entire life writing about people rendered powerless against higher authorities had his final, most personal command completely overridden by his closest friend. Today, a century later, those unread notes from his desk drawer represent one of the most prominent philosophical concepts of the modern era. Kafka's work provides an accurate map of our darkest frustrations, stripped of false hope or easy ways out. There is a profound psychological comfort in that accuracy. His stories prove that when you feel crushed by the senseless, indifferent gears of society, you aren't going crazy. You are simply experiencing the human condition. Kafka died feeling uniquely small, inadequate, and broken. But by documenting that exact struggle, he gave the world the vocabulary we needed, ensuring we would never have to feel alone in the dark.